At the end of the day, the quality of your mind determines the quality of your life. If your mental space is filled with chaos, it will show up in your choices, your reactions, your relationships. But if your mental space is guarded intentionally, consistently, you become focused, clear, powerful. Protect the gate. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day. What you allow in will eventually come out through your words, your actions, your energy. Make sure it's worth it. So many people bottle things up because they've been taught that showing emotion makes them vulnerable. But the truth is, unexpressed emotions don't vanish. They leak. They come out in sarcasm and withdrawal and passive aggression and burnout and explosions over the smallest things. Emotional control is not about suppression, it's about processing. It's about understanding the source, allowing the emotion to flow through, and then making decisions from a place of clarity, not chaos. And let's be honest, emotion is what makes life rich. Love, wonder, awe, grief, gratitude, even heartbreak, these are the things that connect us to being alive. We're not robots. We're not supposed to be flat, neutral, or always okay. What gives your mind strength isn't the absence of emotion, but the presence of emotional fluency, the ability to recognize, name, sit with, and use emotions as fuel, not friction. If you want to control your mind, don't fight your feelings. Befriend them. Get curious. Ask, what's underneath this? What do I need to learn here? And then breathe. Create space between stimulus and response. That's where freedom lives. The people who truly master themselves are not the ones who never feel. They're the ones who feel everything and still stay grounded. Emotion isn't the enemy. Denial is. Suppression is. Reactivity is. But emotion is your compass. You just have to learn how to read it. Discipline is also in how you speak to yourself. The words you repeat become your internal soundtrack. Are you encouraging yourself or are you tearing yourself down? Most people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. They rehearse every mistake, they magnify every flaw, and they wonder why they can't move forward. Mental hygiene means interrupting that cycle. It means replacing self-judgment with self-instruction. Not I'm a failure, but this didn't work. What can I learn? Not I'm not good enough, but I'm still growing. Discipline is also about consistency, not perfection, consistency. Mental strength isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built in the small, invisible decisions you make every day. Choosing to stay focused when it's easier to quit. Choosing to take a walk instead of doom scrolling. Choosing to write one page, make one call, do one hard thing when nobody's watching. These moments compound. They become your baseline. And soon the things that once felt hard become your new standard. And when you fail, and you will, that's not a reason to give up. That's part of the process. Mental discipline means getting back up without self-pity. It means not letting one bad day become a bad week. It means showing up even when motivation is gone. Because discipline is not about feeling ready. It's about remembering your responsibility to your future self. Clean your mind the way you clean your environment. Sweep out the noise. Air out the toxic thoughts. Take out the mental trash. Protect your peace with the same urgency you protect your passwords. Mental hygiene is not optional. It's the foundation of how you live, work, love, and lead. Discipline doesn't restrict you. It frees you. It removes the mental clutter so you can think clearly, act decisively, and live purposefully. Your mind works in loops, patterns that repeat over and over, often without your permission. These loops are mental habits and they can be either empowering or destructive. What you think repeatedly becomes automatic. What you reinforce becomes your reality. If you've ever wondered why certain thoughts keep coming back, why some fears never seem to fade, or why you keep ending up in the same emotional states, it's because you're caught in a loop. The brain is efficient. It doesn't like to work harder than it has to. So when it finds a thought that seems useful, or more accurately familiar, it begins to automate it. This is why anxiety loops, insecurity loops, and overthinking loops are so hard to break. It's not that they're logical or helpful, it's just that they've been repeated so many times that the brain now treats them as the default setting. Let's say, for example, you once failed at something meaningful. Maybe you were embarrassed or hurt. That moment created an emotional imprint. Your mind remembers it, not to punish you, but to protect you. So the next time you step into something new or uncertain, your brain pulls up that old loop. What if I fail again? It thinks it's keeping you safe. But what it's really doing is trapping you in fear. Unless you recognize the loop, you'll obey it without question. Here's how it works. Thoughts trigger emotions. Emotions reinforce the thoughts. And the cycle continues. A single doubt, I'm not ready, can create anxiety. That anxiety reinforces the thought. Now you're not just thinking it, you feel it, and feelings have gravity. They pull in more thoughts to match. Soon you're spiraling, and you don't even know how it started. This is the danger of unexamined loops. They don't just affect your mood, they shape your decisions, your relationships, your actions, your life. But here's the truth. Loops are not destiny. They're just repetition. And what is learned can be unlearned. The first step is to see the pattern. Awareness interrupts automation. You can't break a loop you don't recognize. So you start asking questions. Why am I thinking this again? When was the first time I felt this way? What emotion keeps bringing me back here? The goal is not to suppress the thought, but to understand the engine behind it. You'll notice that most loops are fear-based. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being seen and not being enough. And the brain, in its attempt to protect you from those feelings, will often trap you in inaction. It convinces you that staying where you are is safer than risking discomfort. But safety is not the same as growth. In fact, the safest loops are often the most limiting. To change a loop, you must break the cycle. One of the most powerful ways to do this is by introducing a new thought in the gap between awareness and emotion. For example, when your mind says, I can't handle this, you pause and ask, is that really true? And if it's not, you challenge it. I've handled worse before. That single disruption starts to rewire the pathway. Over time, the old thought weakens and a new one begins to take its place. But repetition is key. You can't just say it once. You have to teach your brain a new loop. That means practicing new language, visualizing better outcomes, celebrating small wins, and surrounding yourself with voices that reflect your growth, not your fear. You train your brain like a muscle, and just like physical training, mental reconditioning takes time, consistency, and patience. Most importantly, be kind to yourself when old loops show up. They're not a sign of failure, they're a sign of conditioning. You've practiced them for years, often without realizing it. It's not weakness that keeps them alive, it's familiarity. But you have the power to choose differently. Every time you catch a thought, question it, and replace it, you weaken the old loop and strengthen your control. You are not your loops. You are the one who observes them, interrupts them, and decides whether or not they get to stay. That is where control begins. Not in silencing your mind, but in retraining it. Start with awareness. This is where all transformation begins. Not with action, not with motivation, but with the ability to notice before you can change anything in your life. You need to understand what's happening inside you. And most of us are running on autopilot. We're thinking without thinking, reacting without pausing, and living without truly being conscious of why we do what we do. The average person has thousands of thoughts per day. Some studies estimate it's upwards of 60,000. But here's the catch. Most of those thoughts are the same as yesterday. And if you don't become aware of them, you start to assume they're just part of who you are. You don't question them. You don't challenge them. You just act on them. And this is where many people get stuck. They think their thoughts are facts. They think their fears are predictions. They think their doubt is wisdom, but it's not. Most of the time, it's just old programming. Beliefs picked up from childhood, past pain, social conditioning, and repetition. When you start to observe your thoughts without judgment, you take back control. You start to realize that your mind has been talking this whole time, but you haven't really been listening. You've been following, obeying, letting it run the show. But the moment you create that space, the moment you can step back and say, interesting, I'm thinking that again, you shift into power. You shift from being the thought to being the observer of the thought. Awareness doesn't mean you suddenly have no negative thoughts. It means you notice them. It means you catch yourself in the moment. You notice when you're catastrophizing. You notice when you're assuming the worst. You notice when your brain starts recycling an old memory just to make you feel small again. And the act of noticing is what weakens the thought's grip on you. Because what you're aware of, you can change. What you're unaware of controls you. Think of it like this. Your mind is like a house and thoughts are visitors. Some visitors come in and leave quietly, others overstay their welcome. But without awareness, you're not even at the door. You're in the back room, and thoughts are just marching in and out, rearranging furniture, throwing parties, making a mess. Awareness puts you back at the front door. It gives you the power to say, no thank you. You're not coming in today. And this isn't just about positive thinking. That's surface level. This is about seeing clearly. Real awareness is neutral. It's not about labeling your thoughts as good or bad. It's about simply seeing them for what they are. Thoughts, nothing more. They may be loud, they may be persuasive, but they're still just suggestions, not commands. When you understand that, you stop reacting and start responding. And awareness extends beyond thoughts. It includes emotions, triggers, patterns, and behaviors. Why do you get angry so quickly in certain situations? Why does one comment from a stranger ruin your whole day? Why do you procrastinate the moment something starts to matter to you? These aren't surface problems. They're clues. Awareness lets you track them to their source. And when you do, you stop being surprised by yourself. You start understanding yourself. Building awareness is a daily practice. It's built in moments of silence. It's built in reflection. It's built when you stop distracting yourself and actually pay attention. Meditation can help. Journaling can help. Therapy can help. Even just sitting with your own discomfort for a minute instead of running from it can help. Every time you turn towards your inner world instead of avoiding it, you build awareness. And with it comes freedom. Because here's the truth. You cannot control what you are not aware of. And the more you become aware, the more choice you gain. You begin to choose your response. Instead of reacting out of habit, you begin to live on purpose instead of by default. And that's when you truly begin to control your mind, not by force, but by clarity, not through suppression, but through presence. Awareness is the beginning of all mental strength. Start there. Stay there. Let it guide everything that follows. Most people try to control outcomes, other people, or the chaos around them. But the real power begins when you learn to control the one thing that truly determines how you experience life, your mind. Control doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean pretending you're fine when you're unraveling. Controlling your mind means understanding how it works,